Welcome back to the channel. Either way, thank you for joining me. I'm Chris. Not here with me right now is my son Chris. He's in school getting educated today. We haven't had a day off together in a couple of weeks, and we won't have a day off together completely for another four or 5 days. But when that happens, we have a cruise to attend. So I'm going to try to get the car running properly by then. If you've seen our other videos, you might have heard me say more than once, the car is running better than it ever has. And that was true at that time. We've continued to make strides and it has improved, but I've never gotten it quite right. It's never been the way I want. It's never run perfectly. There's always been something a little off with it. That comes down to my lack of experience with a carburetor. I'm going to try to fix that in the next few days. I'll only get to work on the car a little bit today and a little bit tomorrow before the street cruise. Then I have to go back to work. And then, like I said, the next time we have a day off, we have a street cruise. So I'm not going to get to play with this car. Then it's Thanksgiving a couple of days later. And I want to try to get this thing going right now. In the past, I have managed to get the car to do one or two of the big three that I call them. There's idle, just idle, and throttle response at idle, which is the easiest to get. It's really simple. I can make this thing sound amazing at idle, but that doesn't mean a whole lot most of the time. Then there's just off idle cruising, there's part throttle cruising, there's that regular traffic, just rolling around the neighborhood, stuck in traffic. And then there's wide open throttle performance. The first one's always easy, but somehow, some way, I've only ever managed to get two of the three at the same time. I've never gotten all three at once, and that's what I'm going to try to do today and tomorrow. Someone with more experience in education and carburetors could probably come over here and nail this. Sadly, there's not one of those people available, so it's just me and the boy sometimes, and hopefully he'll be in and out at some point. I wish he was here for this whole thing so he could get some of this experience, but I've got to get this car going in a certain amount of time, so I've got to work on it, a lot of it, alone. In this video, I'm going to experiment with a few different ways of trying to tune the carburetor and trying to tune the timing advance and the vacuum, including the much maligned, evil manifold vacuum. I'm going to try it, see how it runs. I know. Everything is supposed to be ported vacuum. I know. I'm going to give it a shot. I've never been able to nail ported vacuum. I'm going to give it a try with manifold vacuum. If it didn't work, it didn't work. I'm also going to try to nail ported vacuum and try to get the car to run properly on it. So far, that hasn't worked. But I will admit I have not done a lot of experimentation. I've just tried to set it. When I thought I've got it right, I've just let it go. And then I've gone and driven it. And I found out that I didn't quite get it as right as I thought I did. Today is going to be a lot of experimenting. Right now, the car is set to 16 degrees initial timing. I don't know what the total timing is because my balancer wasn't marked out that far. I only had it marked through 20 degrees. I've since gone and marked it all the way to 40 because I'm going to need it because it appears it's going out past 40. But right now, in order to run, if I have the transfer slots where they're not pulling vacuum through the port, at 16 degrees timing, the idle mixture screws are only one full turn out. And I think that's causing a major lean condition. If I turn it further out, it bogs down and won't idle, which isn't right. So we're going to experiment with it a little bit. So please join me and let's hope I don't punch a hole in anything with way too much timing. This has very little to do with this video, but I just want to point out that the electric choke is actually working. It's been so hot since we built this car. I think it's the first chance I've had to actually see it working. It was closed just a minute ago, but I have the key on. Yay. Like I said, right now the car is set to 16 degrees initial timing. I have no idea what the total timing is with mechanical and vacuum advance. It's quite a bit. If I can find the proper Allen wrench, I am going to try to dial back the vacuum advance canister. Also, like I was saying, the idle mixture screws are only turned out one full turn right now, which I'm sure it's causing a pretty lean condition, but that's what it's taking to idle right now. I had to go down and mark the balancer through 40 degrees because previously it only been marked to 20, and that was not doing it. It's not pretty, but I can tell what it is. One of the biggest issues I've had is even when it sounds decent idling, I've had a case of the shutters, a case where the engine just kind of shudders, like it's not quite right. It's just missing a little bit. And every now and then it'll go from a minor shudder to a bigger shudder where it'll rattle things a little bit. And you'll see that here in a second, most likely when I start it up. She's having a real tough time today in this colder weather. Took quite a bit of time on the fast idle cam just to get her to idle. But as you can see, here's the case of those shutters I was talking about. This doesn't go away. It just kind of vibrates and shakes back and forth all the time. I've never been able to quite get it worked out where it doesn't do that. I'm not sure how I'm going to do this, but I'm going to try to hold the timing light, hold the camera, and hit the throttle to show you this with two hands. But at 16 degrees initial timing, this thing with the vacuum advance unhooked, it's going well over 40, almost to 50 at times, which is not ideal. That's a lot. Ah, dang it. Can't do all three at once, but that is not ideal. That is a whole lot. Not sure if there's something wrong with the distributor or what, but it should not be going anywhere near that high. This is probably the best example I can show you of the car shaking and shuddering. This is the shifter, and this is at all times. The whole car just has a vibration to it. I just can't get it to smooth out. Same setup, 15 or 16 degrees timing. This is with the vacuum gauge set to a manifold vacuum. I'm only getting about 12 to 13 inches of mercury at idle. Nowhere near where I should be. This is where the transfer slots are not pulling vacuum, unported vacuum. 16 degrees of timing. Idle mixture screws are only one turn out. Another good example of the full car vibration. My tools, which I like to set right here on the headlight cutout, they have a lifespan of about 15 to 20 seconds anywhere you put them on the car before they end up on the ground. It's kind of annoying. The car vibrates that badly. Another issue I was just reminded of, and I forgot to get on video, I'll try later, an ever so slight diesel when you shut it off. It's probably only half a second, sometimes 1 second. It doesn't just continue, but there's definitely a shudder and a shimmy and a slight diesel when it shuts off instead of just smoothly turning off. I took off the distributor and adjusted the vacuum advance. It was set, seemed to be set just about in the middle. It has 16 total turns from one end to the other. I have it set back in the middle at exactly 8. Nothing seems to be amiss in the distributor. The vacuum advance seems to be working properly. I can't play with it too much. Notice all the stickers void the warranty if I do A, B, C, and D. But I did adjust the vacuum advance. I set it in the middle. I'm going to put it back in, and but even with the vacuum advance disconnected, it's shooting up to like 50 degrees. Makes me think something is amiss in here, but I can't really mess with that. I'm going to put it back on, and I'm going to dial, if it's still doing the same thing, I'm going to dial back the vacuum advance all the way, basically shut it off and see if it has any effect, but it seems to be the mechanical that's doing it, not the vacuum. I should point out that this is the replacement distributor for the distributor that blew out the vacuum advance canister and went crazy and shot our RPMs up 3,000 extra and gave us problems. I returned it. This is the warranty piece, so I'm definitely not saying that the distributor is perfect and can't be the problem. I am thinking it is the problem. To be safe, I've dialed it back down to about 12 degrees initial timing. This is with the vacuum turned off. And it's still going up to 40, which 40 is fine. It was going up to about 50 earlier, so maybe it just needed a couple of degrees timing taken out of it. And now with the vacuum hooked back up, it's going back up to nearly 50 at times. I know it's hard to see on camera, but that is over 50, so I'm going to try to dial back the vacuum advance. I dialed back the vacuum advance all the way, and it's not really making any difference. Let's go drive it, and I'll show you what it's doing. All right, we're going to test drive this thing. It's set at 12 degrees initial timing with mechanical and vacuum advance. God only knows, it's with the vacuum hooked up, it's probably going up near 50. Right now, it's idling fine. It's idling steady, 600, 650. It's where I set it. But the car is shuddering. It's got good throttle response. Mash the throttle and it just responds right now. Let's go see how it works going down the road. I'm going to show you what it's doing. The cruising response right now is actually pretty good. I'm not having any hesitation. There are times when if I get it wrong too much, when I'm cruising, I feel like I'm pushing the car along with the throttle. I'm forcing the car down the road. Right now it's pulling fairly smoothly, fairly evenly. It's not backfiring through the exhaust. It doesn't have the burble, the blah, 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 blah. It does sometimes when I'm cruising. So right now, just neighborhood cruising, 35 miles per hour. It actually feels okay. And here in just a second, I'm going to see what it does when I mash the throttle from 35. Third gear, 2,000 RPMs. No. You heard that half-second hesitation, and then it really struggled to rev. Yeah, it's not great. All right, now we're going to try a full throttle pull here in just a second. This is usually where things go from bad to worse. Let's see how it responds. That actually responded really well. I am shocked. I actually didn't have any hesitation or miss there. All right. Off my game by doing well. Let's see what it does for third gear mash at 50 miles per hour. Still got a pretty big hesitation. Just stomping the throttle from zero throttle input, 3,000 RPMs. Did okay in fourth gear. Third gear throttle mash. Up run right now with the adjustments I made. I forgot to mention that I backed out the idle mixture screws a half turn, so we're at 1.5 turns now and 12 degrees of timing. And I was not pulling the mercury that I wanted, the inches of mercury, but it's actually doing all right. Oh no. So we're going 1500 RPMs at 45 miles per hour in 5th gear. And I give it throttle and that is horrible. Ooh. I thought it was going to stall. It started to backfire there. That is not good. It has occurred to me that I believe I had the accelerator pump set on the richest mixture possible because we were having a lean stumble. Now I'm wondering if we have a rich bog. So I'm going to set it back to the middle and see if that responds a little better. We may be flooding it at a full throttle mash from low RPM. Alright, I dialed back the accelerator pump back to the medium setting. There's only 3 settings. I put it back in the middle. When I was doing it, I almost stalled the car because I accidentally pumped the accelerator pump and flooded it. But we're going to go out and see how it responds now to the new settings with the middle accelerator pump setting. Alright, forgot to turn on the camera, but we still have the same miss. 50 miles an hour, 3,000 RPMs, 3rd gear. Here we go. It pulls fine after that initial miss, but you've got probably 3/4 of a second to a second when it just falls on its face before going. 4th gear, 60 miles an hour, 3,000 RPMs. A little better. Let's try 5th gear, 55 miles per hour. That's like 1,800 RPM. Let's see. Ooh. Nope. Big miss, big hesitation, big shudder till it gets to about 2,500 RPMs. This is definitely not how I want it driving around. Once again, part throttle cruising 35 miles an hour in the neighborhood. It's doing really well. It's idling all right except for that little shudder. 2,500 RPMs, 3rd gear, 35 miles per hour. Feels good. It's got decent throttle response. We're going up a big hill right now. There's no sputtering and backfiring through the exhaust. This is how I wanted to drive around the neighborhood in part throttle. This feels pretty good, but just can't nail that wide open throttle performance. I'm not sure what's going on with that. We're going to take it back home and try a couple other things. I don't know if the camera's going to pick this up, but I just got it back home and I'm going to try to capture the dieseling it does when it shuts off. It's very short, very quick, but it's not quite right. Right now we're idling at 700 RPMs. It sounds good, but the car is chopping. Again, it's 12 degrees, 1.5 idle mixture screw turns, and the idle is set where it's idling about 700 RPMs. All right, we're gonna turn it off. Let's see if you can hear it on camera. Takes about 1 second. This is the part of the video where I was going to experiment with manifold vacuum, but the way it's continuing to add timing with manifold vacuum, I'm a little nervous about that. It is going up really high. You just give it a little rev, and I was pretty sure in the past that when hooked to manifold vacuum, it should, when the engine's under full load, it should be dropping the timing a little. It's not. It's advancing the crap out of it. 12 degrees becomes 30 something when you go from ported to manifold vacuum. And the engine does smooth out, but under load it's shooting way up over 50 to the point I can't measure it. So I'm not sure I'm going to play with manifold vacuum. I really don't want to punch a hole in a piston. We shall see. Alright, what I've done now is I capped off the vacuum advance completely. I'm going to see if that makes any difference. Everything else is the same. 12 degrees, initial timing, 1.5 inch idle mixture screws backed out. The ported vacuum or there is no more vacuum. There's no ported or manifold vacuum right now. I locked it out on the distributor and on the carburetor, and now I'm cruising through the neighborhood. No difference now. I just want to see if there's going to be any difference at wide open throttle. Maybe the hit from the vacuum is causing too many problems. All right, and here we go, the wide open throttle pull. Felt pretty solid. Now let's see what it does. 55 miles per hour, fifth gear, 1800 RPM or so. Wide open throttle mash. And no change. No, it's still missing real bad. It's still shuddering real bad. Now let's try third gear, 3000 RPMs, 50 miles an hour. It wasn't terrible. Still a little bit of hesitation, but it's not horrible. Just can't get it right. Especially below 3000 RPMs. Fifth gear, 60 miles an hour, 2000 or 2100 RPMs. It's cruising fine. Mash the throttle. Yeah, big hesitation and a lot of shudder from the engine. Fourth gear, 55 miles per hour, 2700 RPMs. Oh, that actually wasn't bad. Once again, I'm hitting on about 90%. Just can't quite get it right. I'm actually going to pull over and put the accelerator pump back to richer and see if that helps any. Alright, the accelerator pump is now in the richer, fatter setting. I'm not holding my breath that that's going to make any difference, but let's go see. Fourth gear, 50 miles per hour, 2500 RPMs. Oh, that's not bad. Not horrible. Alright, so that was a 50 to 65 pull. Fifth gear, 55 RPMs, 1900 or 55 miles per hour, 1900 RPMs or so. Ooh, no, it does not like that. Ooh, wow. It did not want to do anything there. Alright. Third gear, 45 miles per hour or 50 miles per hour, 3000 RPM. Full throttle mash. Here we go. 0. Oh. Alright. Oh, okay. So it really liked that. That's good to know. Huh. May just have to take, I'm going to consider this 2.5 out of 3. You got a fairly good idle. It shudders a little. It's cruising really well. And now I've got decent wide open throttle pull. Fourth gear, 2500 RPMs. Yeah, that was good. Yeah. Alright. So it doesn't like anything below 2000 RPMs at all. But I may have to take this as a win. I've got to start picking up kids here in a minute. And so I'm going to be out of time today. I might come back tomorrow and experiment a little more, do a little more research on my distributor, figure out this whole manifold vacuum thing and see how that goes. So I'll get back to you. I spoke too soon. Second gear, 3000 RPM, wide open throttle punch. Well, that's better than it was a second ago. A second ago it bogged or stumbled really bad. I need someone with more experience to help me out with this thing. Here I am waiting to pick up my kid, and this is a great example of the whole car just shuddering. Look at the tachometer vibrating. Now the RPM is holding steady at 750, 800 RPMs. It's right there, but look at the door handle. Look at the shifter. The whole car just shudders and rattles. And the engine does too. Even if I hold this door panel, hold the loose glass. And it is really smelling fat right now. But I guess that's better than going lean. All right, be back tomorrow. Still waiting on my child. Not only does it not sound the best, but I am essentially breathing and tasting fuel. So 1.5 turns on this thing is really, really rich. For all the issues this thing is having, hot restarts are not one of them. That wasn't good. Fired up much better a couple of minutes ago. I gotta go get the boy. And look who's back from getting a formal education. Formal education's for losers. Look at me. I don't have an education. I turned out fine.
No, you didn't.
I can't even tune a small box Ford. Stay in school, kid. All right? Hey, boy, tell me if you heard this one before. But I've been playing with the carburetor and the ignition timing today, and it's running better than ever. Have you ever heard that before? Does it sound familiar? Do you think it's true?
It's not gonna last.
You suck. See, not too bad, right? The response is pretty good. Probably should not tempt fate with the brakes.
Oh yeah, I'll be driving you to school by sophomore year.
See, not too bad, right? Pretty decent response. Running better than ever. See? I think it's about ready for our cruise this weekend.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, I was going to experiment with a couple other timing things, but I think something's wrong with our distributor. I locked out the vacuum advance because the vacuum advance was shooting our timing up to like 50 something degrees and trying to punch a hole in our engine. What is that thing? Oh, look at that though. Woo! Pulling strong and fat.
Like you.
I'm going to turn this camera off and beat you. I'm back again. It is day 2. I've got a little bit of time today. I'm going to try a couple of things. I learned some new information about the distributor and about some timing. I am going to experiment with some manifold vacuum today, see if I can get that to work out, see how it runs. And it's even a colder day today than it was yesterday. Let's see if we can get a cold start this morning. Oh, yeah, fired right up. All right, that's a good start. I like where this is going. Well, that was a disaster. I didn't get anything on video. I was going to videotape once it was set up, but twice I tried to hook up the distributor to manifold vacuum and get it to run that way, and twice it would idle fine, but both times, as soon as you gave it any gas, it started spittering and sputtering and backfiring through the carburetor, and then the RPM shot up crazy, out of control, and started missing, and I couldn't get it to come back down without shutting off the car and putting it back to ported vacuum or closing off the vacuum. I definitely don't think these 85 style stock distributors are made for manifold vacuum. They're from the smog era. They're made for ported vacuum, and I think hooking it to manifold vacuum is causing problems. But again, our last distributor that did this was never hooked to manifold vacuum. It was only ever on ported vacuum with low timing, and it still went crazy also. So I'm not sure what's going on. And now, just for fun, as I'm trying to get the car back running again, my fuel pump is cutting in and out, is intermittent. That sounds horrible. I just tried to get it to run a second ago and actually stalled out from a lack of fuel pressure. It is sounding rough. I'm going to check all the electrical connections, see if I can get that running, and hope to God it isn't the actual pump itself going out. I don't know if you can hear that. It's just growling and coming in and out. That sounds terrible. This is less than ideal. Our fuel pump for the first time is leaking. It's got it pulling no pressure. There's no pressure in the lines. I've got to hope I can get this thing apart and figure out what's wrong with it and get it back together here in the next couple of hours, or else our cruise this weekend is done already. I finally got our Holley fuel pump out, and I was expecting it to be all gummed up and ugly and dirty inside or something, but it's not. Everything looks really good. Including this screen, which I can't get to without an extra hand. But really, there's nothing inside. I'm not sure where it was leaking. It appears to be leaking all around the entire base. The gasket's not terrible, so I'm really not sure what's going on. Might try to put a little bit of sealant on it, put it back together, and hope for the best. Hope it can last a little while longer. All right. Among the other problems that I've had today is it took me forever to get this fuel pump out by myself. This was a complete nightmare. It looks good. It's nice and clean and tucked up, and I could not reach it. We installed it with 2 people, and I need 2 people to get it out. It's just me, so I needed to come up with a way to be able to reach the fuel pump. So it is now going to be mounted much lower than it was. I probably won't like the way it looks, but I've got to be able to get it in and out of the car by myself. If we'd been stranded on the side of the road, this would have been a nightmare. I prefer the clean, tucked look, but that just isn't realistic. Forgive this unholy abomination. I currently do not have a welder or anyone available to weld this for me right now. I know how ugly it is. I know it's not right. Don't let your kids watch this video and think this is real mechanicking. Well, we have our pump mounted. I know it's absolutely hideous, but it's mostly secure. And best of all, as hideous as that is, you cannot really see anything but the bottom of the Holley pump from behind. All right, let's see if the pump fires. Sounds normal. Put fluid through it now, fuel through it, and make sure it's functioning properly. All right, let's pressure test it. Sounds like it's flowing. Sounds steady and normal like it normally does. Let's go see if we have any fuel pressure. No, we do not have fuel pressure. That's not good. Well, we have fuel pressure now, but it's really low, about half of what it was yesterday. I'm going to play with the regulator, see if the pump is actually putting out that lower pressure, or see if something's wrong up here. It is not the fuel pressure regulator. This thing is just not putting out much pressure to the front of the car. I'm not sure why. It sounds normal. It just isn't working properly. And now the pump is sounding like it's dying again. You see the inlet line is shaking. The whole thing is shaking. It's never done that before. All right, the fuel pump's putting out 4 psi at the pump. It's not great, but I mean, it's working. So I'm wondering if there's an obstruction in the line somewhere between here and the regulator. I blew them out here recently, but that doesn't really mean anything. But the pump seems to be pushing hard. and steady. It's not going down like it was earlier. At the regulator, it's starting at 2 or 3 and then stopping. Ooh, maybe it's not healthy. Ooh, it's not a good sign. Now the boy's here. I've got some help. All right, boy, let me know if anything comes out the end of this fuel line.
Nothing.
Nothing? Just air?
Yeah.
All right. Blow out the fuel tank line. All right, sounds like it's undestructed. It's not good. All right, the boy has put some fuel in the tank, and we are about to fire it back up and see if it's going to work. Probably not. Completely unrelated to the issues we're having today, I'd like to thank Holly for making the absolute worst mounting bracket humanly possible for a fuel pressure regulator. I have had about enough of this whole bolting from the bottom thing, and I remounted it where I could get to it easier, and of course metal self-tappers because I'm a professional, as we've established. All right, turn on the key, pressurize it. All right, run up front, tell me if we have fuel pressure at the regulator. Sounds a little bit healthier for now. No pressure at the regulator at all? Jesus. So I just had the boy pressurize the system, turn on the key, the pump sounds normal. We got no fuel to the fuel line at all. As you can see, it's completely empty. Nothing made it to the regulator. Great. Pump is pushing no fuel up to the fuel lines, but when I just run this little hose from the fuel pump, it's flowing really well. I don't understand. Whatever was going on with the fuel pump, it is now getting fuel all the way to the regulator, because I completely forgot I left this disconnected and meant to put a bottle on it, and I just had a pretty massive fuel spill as it shot gasoline everywhere. So, but at least we're getting pressure on the top end now. Yay. All right, prime it again, hit the key.
What?
Key.
Oh, that's awful.
Yeah, it sounds awful, but we have fuel pressure. Not great fuel pressure. And it's wavering again. It's going up and down, but all right, let me, I need to clean this gas off the exhaust, and then we'll see if we can fire it and run it. All right, let's see if we can get it running again so we can get back to trying to figure out the carb and the timing. Go ahead and fire it up. Go ahead. All right, hopefully that'll hold. Maybe we can get back to some actual tuning now. Well, that was a complete disaster and a nightmare. Manifold vacuum did not work out. So we are back to 14 degrees of timing. Our vacuum blocked off. Idle screws, 1.5 turns out. We've got a steady 2.5 pounds of fuel pressure, about half of what it was. We're gonna go try to test drive it. Hope it works. Hope it holds for this weekend. Fuel pump's holding steady pressure, if a little low. The car sounded fairly good. It is fat, extremely fat. Better than lean, I guess. All right, and we're test driving it. Oh, what a nightmare. Ooh, she's idling high. Sounds good at idle, but she's not pulling all that well in the neighborhood so far. Got a little bit of a miss again. Gee, I sure hope the combination of our distributor going out and our fuel pump going out is going to make it run really well. What do you think, buddy? You think it will? Yeah, I'm sure it'll be fine. We don't need a distributor or fuel pressure, do we? All right, is it clear now? Clear?
Yeah.
Oh, no. degrees and see how it runs, and then we'll try raising it if it does not run well. Just realized I may have a little too much fuel in. Completely forgotten I had experimented with dialing the idle mixture screws back 2 full turns. Now they're dialed back 1.5, and it's a little bit better, but not perfect. Still just a little miss. I don't think she likes 12 degrees of timing. I think we need to give her a little more. Here's Junior checking the timing. Actually looks like I might have accidentally set it like 9 or 10 instead of 12. Not good. Alright, we dialed up the timing to about 16 to 18 degrees. And I say about 16 to 18 because, as always, with a Ford harmonic balancer and pointer, it's always kind of a rough estimate and a guess. Still missing really bad down low. Still not running well. Dang it. Oh, 3rd gear pull from 0 throttle. Wide open, is it bad? That's not running too bad. 4th gear, 2,500 RPMs, 50 miles per hour, no throttle to full throttle. Not horrible. Not horrible. We're going to try giving her a couple more degrees of timing and see if she detonates. Alright, we pulled over and gave her a few more degrees of timing. Let's see how she runs. There's full throttle run. Let's see how she handles part throttle, just cruising. Ooh. Nope. 5th gear. Did not like that at all. Jeez. Still not running right. Still got a pretty big hesitation under full throttle. Don't get it. Lowering the timing didn't help. Raising the timing didn't help. Just can't get it to run like it ran yesterday. Wonder if there's something wrong with the distributor. Well, there's a full throttle 3rd gear pull. It did okay. It just really does not like being under 3,000 RPMs at all, for any reason. Just for fun, our belt tensioner is going out on us. The belt is squealing. You actually see the belt flexing around the alternator where the belt tensioner isn't holding. Good times. I'm sure that won't cause a problem. Actually running pretty well right now. I spoke too soon. And then it did that. Dang it. Nope, still missing down low. We were about out of time for test and tune. I pulled over one last time. Took a little bit more fuel out of it because with the windows up, we're really smelling how rich it is. We're going to see if she'd like to be leaned out a little bit. This is probably going to be it. We're going to have to just take it home and be happy with it. Not too bad. One last third gear, full throttle pull, 3,000 RPMs. Not horrible. Fourth gear pull, 2,500 RPMs. From zero throttle input. Not great, not terrible. Alright, fifth gear, at 1,800 RPMs. It never likes this. It's been worse before. Not too bad. We're gonna have to call it a night. We're out of daylight. Time to go eat. It's a few days later. I've got a little bit of time to play with this thing. The first thing I'm going to do is change out the spark plugs because I suspect they're pretty well trashed at this point. They weren't looking great here a while back, and I didn't change them. I've done a lot of experimentation. I'm pretty sure we've cooked the plugs. So I'm going to do that first. I won't get to it this week, but next week I plan to take apart this old DuraSpark distributor and see if I can practice recurving it before I start cutting into our new DuraSpark distributor. And I actually just realized what was wrong with this one. The reluctor wheel, the pin that holds the reluctor wheel, popped off. The reluctor wheel and the reluctor shaft just spin completely independently. The pin is gone. So otherwise this distributor may have worked, but if you hold the shaft, the reluctor wheel will just spin. But I'm going to work on recurving DuraSpark distributor, but that won't be today. Never mind, I started pulling plugs. They all looked fine. There's nothing really wrong with any of the plugs. They weren't near as rough looking as I thought they were going to be. So back to trying to get it to run right with the carb and timing. Alright, the first thing I'm doing today is I got some advice on trying to attempt manifold vacuum again, so I'm giving it a shot. Seems to be idling okay. Oh, nope. Now we're backfiring again. Damn it. Sigh. Another attempt at manifold vacuum. 4 degrees base idle has it sitting right at 20, hooked up to manifold vacuum. Let's go see if it revs up. Idling rock solid, about 800 RPM. Nope. Backfiring. Trying to reset manifold vacuum to about 30 degrees timing with vacuum hooked up, and it's already idling rougher. Yep, there's a backfire. I finally got the car to idle properly on manifold vacuum, adjusted the throttle blades, the throttle screw, adjusted the idle mixture screws a little bit. It's actually idling really well, pulling through the neighborhood. It has good manners right here. I'm going to try to take this thing and get a few gallons of gas in it so I can keep playing with it and see what happens on manifold vacuum. Here's the real test. Let's see how this thing does. I'm not going to do full throttle pulls, but I'm going to do a little bit of heavy driving. See how it holds up. So far it's pulling really smooth and strong, but still missing right off idle. Dang it. But I don't hear any detonation or any popping or backfiring or anything, so that's a plus. I'm about a mile from the gas station, maybe a little more. I'm going to try it 45 miles per hour, third gear, 3,000 RPMs. gas station, 45 miles per hour, 5th gear, 1700 RPMs. This is where this thing usually does terrible. Let's see. It didn't really stutter, hiccup, or cough or anything. So far the vacuum, or the manifold vacuum, is working well. All right, after I gas up, I'll try a few full throttle pulls and see what happens. I just realized that I turned the car off to gas it up. I never turn the car off to gas it up. Let's see what a warm start does with manifold vacuum. Fired right up instantly. I also forgot to mention that it's not dieseling when it turns off under manifold vacuum. Let's see if you can hear that. Fired right back up. All right, I guess I'm gonna nut up and try a few wide open throttle pulls in this thing. I'm guessing it's not this car, but I'm smelling some rotten egg catalytic converter type smells. But this car doesn't have catalytic converters because it doesn't need them, so suck it, Uncle Sam. So far, really, really good part throttle cruising, which I like. We're just in traffic right now, and it's handling itself really well. No bucking or surging or missing so far. I'm just not sure I'm going to get to do any wide open throttle pulls. Traffic is cleared up ahead, so here we go. Full, true wide open throttle pull. Good as it's been. Hey, I've said that before once or twice, but it's running as well as it ever has. Oh, I always jinx myself when I say that. Ooh. Forgot to mention two things earlier. Today, it suddenly became summer again. It's like 84 degrees. It's hot. Well, in this thing, I'm hot. And also, we have fuel pressure again. 3 PSI steadily, which is weird. Considering we just had 2 at most the other day. We are running nice and cool, but it smells hot and it smells like something's burning. I don't like that combination. I gotta go home and do a test or a check and see if anything's leaking or what the deal is. There's always something with this car. Some good news, it just did a 3rd gear pull all the way up the big hill in my neighborhood, nice and smooth and easy. 3rd gear usually makes it buck and shudder and not have fun, but it did it today. I just found my burning smell. Popped the hood and I've got straight gasoline spraying out of the middle of that braided steel line up there. So that line is burst. Good times. Jesus, I'm lucky I didn't burn the car to the ground. Man, didn't I just say it's always something with this car? Alright, I have new fuel line on. I went ahead and replaced both pieces on both sides of the gauge. It's holding 3.5 PSI. Sadly, I did not have any more braided fuel line anywhere. The plan is, after New Year's, to get Junior an all-new bypass regulator and run a return to the fuel tank and replace everything with steel braid line, but I don't have any of that right now. So regular 3/8 fuel line is going to have to do for now, and we're going to have to hope for the best. But so far it's holding pressure, no leaks. That was a gear miss, not a stumble in the engine. Look who finally joined us. So buddy, we're now running full manifold vacuum. I think I have it figured out, and can you guess how the car is running?
Better than ever.
Have you heard this one before? No, I'm gonna quit saying that. It is not running better than ever. I wish it was running better than ever, but it's running about as well as it has run before. So, you know, it's running. I almost burned the car to the ground earlier. No, dead serious. The fuel line ruptured under the hood, carburetor line, the braided steel line burst, sprayed gasoline over everything. Shocked that it didn't burst into flames. That would have sucked, huh? I would have blamed you. Yeah, you shouldn't have been in school getting an education. Should have been here working on the car, boy. All right, let's go see how it drives. One final time before we park it for the cruise. just as we were ending our video, our fuel pump died. We realized we couldn't hear it anymore and it will not turn on. Kick the key on and off again. It is scalding hot despite hanging lower than ever and getting more air. I don't know what's wrong with it. Kick on the key. Alright, I think something may have just been loose in our relay maybe. Started fiddling with the relay and everything kicked back on. Try to start it. Give it a pump the gas a couple times. What is going on with you? Man. Alright. Pump is definitely working now. Alright, we're just gonna have to hope for the best. Alright, that's gonna have to be it for this video. As usual, in typical Green Hill fashion, the video is twice as long as I was expecting with half the results. It's kind of how we do things around here, right? Alright, so that's gonna be the end of it. We're just gonna have to live with it for now. If I do any more tuning, I may have to do that in the future at some point, but it's doing all right for right now. So we're going to go on our cruise and wish us the best.